Hi, welcome everyone to this month's Wednesday webinar. I'm Karen Menti. I'm a librarian with the UAGC Library, and I'm the liaison to the Forbes School of Business and Technology. Today, we're very fortunate we have Dr. Julia Smith from ProQuest here to walk us through using ProQuest Dissertations and Theses Global. Welcome, Julia, and thanks for joining us.
Now, Thank you, Karen. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off. Something you should know that all faculty should know and students should know about ProQuest Dissertations and Theses. This is a special database. It's available exclusively to our doctoral students here at UAGC. And normally I open these Wednesday webinars by showing you how to get to the database in the library. But with ProQuest Dissertations and Theses, we don't actually have a link in the library because it is only available to our doctoral students and our faculty, of course. So how do students get there? We actually have a link available in the Research Resource Center. And students can get to the Research Resource Center in a couple of different ways. From their student portal in the Learning Resources box, they can click on Research Resource Center. And they can also get to it in most doctoral classes. There's a link right in Canvas to their Research Resource Center. So let me show you what that looks like real quick. Let me do a new share. And I'll show you let's show you from Canvas. So here I am, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. So let's say they're in this, the Applied Doctoral Project course. Down here, there's a link in Research Resource Center, and they can find this link in their student portal as well. If they click there, it brings them here to the RRC in Canvas. And here we've got their little roadmap. Underneath here are quick links of use to them. Things like SAGE research methods, their dissertation handbooks, and right here, they can click on ProQuest Dissertations and Theses. And that brings them to ProQuest Dissertations and Theses, and they can start their search from there. We have a couple links. We have a link to a quick answer that you can share with students about how to find the ProQuest Dissertations and Theses and the RRC. And I also have a link to an HTML announcement that you can use to encourage your doctoral students to use ProQuest Dissertations and Theses. That is available, just to remind everybody, we have on the Writing Center website, a link to all of our HTML announcements. And under research specific announcements, we've got this handy ProQuest Dissertations and Theses HTML announcement. From here, you can see what it looks like, and you can copy this HTML code and just drop it right into an announcement for your course so that students can know about this resource and use it for their research. Okay, so with that, I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to hand things over to Dr. Julia. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again, Karen. I'm happy to be here today, and we have just a small number of us on the call, so let's be sure to make this interactive. I don't want to be too formal. I am going to start with a little bit of PowerPoint just to give you all some sense of why our database is special, and then I'm going to demonstrate the use of the database itself along with our citations connections feature, which is our newest AI-based, machine learning-based literature review aid. So with that, let me share my screen. And Karen, is that visible to everyone there?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure. So ProQuest has been around for a good long time, and you can't see this menu at the top of the screen, can you? Okay, good.
No, I just see the slide.
Okay, good. ProQuest has been around for about 80 years, and one of the things that we're working on right now is making sure to get beyond a purely subscription database kind of model. So we are experimenting with open access, and also we're providing free access to 95 different lower income countries as sort of a give back to the community effort. And those are in accordance with the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. We do serve also as the digital repository for the Library of Congress, and we've had a very long association with ARL. I think it's about 60 years in all. And so what that means really is that if Congress were not to be funded again, let's say this fiscal year, ProQuest would be the repository for all of the nation's dissertations and theses. Here's a little timeline of our company history, just to give you some of the big notable events in our sort of history as a company. We started in 1939 in association with the University of Michigan. That's why the UMI, it was called UMI. We became ProQuest Dissertations and Theses in 1997. We really got outside of the US, started to become global in the year 2000. And that's when we changed the name from ProQuest Dissertations and Theses to ProQuest Dissertations and Theses Global. And we have essentially two different ways that we ingest, which means that we take on board the theses and dissertations from the universities that we work with. The University of Arizona is, of course, an important partner of ours. So there are two different ways we do that. One is a software tool that we call ETD Administrator. That was launched at the end of the last century, so meaning 1998 or so. And then we also have a newer collection system called ARC, and that's the automated retrieval of content. And essentially that means that we specify robots with the university's permission, of course, to go out and scrape their institutional repositories. This is a much more efficient way of collecting the theses, but that's sort of the new model with electronic theses and dissertations. And then the big exciting things are at the end of this timeline. In 2002, we launched what we call our Citations Connections feature. That is the literature review aid that I mentioned, and I will be demonstrating for you today. And in this year, we will be indexing all of the dissertations and theses in our collection, over 5 million of them, into the Web of Science, which is also under the aegis of our mother company called Clarivate. Any questions? Should I stop there for a sec?
Sure. No questions here. It's interesting to learn the history. I had no idea that ProQuest has been around for so long, and just the expansion of that is amazing.
Yeah, and the Web of Science is of course a very well-known quantity to a lot of librarians and faculty members, and so it's exciting for us to have to become part of the same organization as the Web of Science and have that ability to sort of cross-fertilize, if you will, the different analytic abilities that we have. But let's get on with. I just want to give a couple more slides just to give a little more background about the importance of this collection from our perspective. Universities contribute or disseminate their theses and dissertations through ProQuest for a couple of important reasons. One of them is that we have a subscription database of over 4 million researchers at academic institutions worldwide. There are a smattering of public libraries and governmental institutions as well in our subscription database, but basically 99% of the database is, the subscription base is from academic universities. And so what that means in a sort of functional sense is that the people who are downloading and using theses and dissertations from ProQuest are academics. They're not, they're not hackers in China. They're not everyday folks who are just sort of browsing around. They're trained scholars. And so it's a very specific audience that we offer access to. We are also very proud of the fact that we have the largest collection of this type in the world. So to have 5.5 million documents, to have over 3 million of them be in full text is really something. And our database actually goes back to the 17th century. So we really are the best one-stop shop, if you will, for dissertations and theses. In other words, a Canadian librarian once said to me, why would I go to 13 different institutional repositories to look for work when I can just go to ProQuest? And that's really the competitive advantage that we offer. Those are a couple of the stats I mentioned. We work closely with 28 different subject indexes. We also have a full-time editorial team of 12 people who work on metadata to ensure that it's consistent across all of the countries, languages, types of dissertations and theses that we receive, so that our searches are really robust. These are a couple of numbers about sort of what kind of content we host in this collection. You can see on the left-hand side that since 2012, we've really focused on our international content, and we are aware that because of our American legacy, that we have a bias, if you will, towards North American content, and we're trying to mitigate that by being aggressive and proactive, reaching out to the global South and looking for content from places that we haven't previously had it. So we've been doing a lot of really good work in that area lately. You can see that here. Lately, it means in the last 10 years or so. Here you can see that in 2020, that almost 30% of our new full text works came from languages beyond English. 2022, more than 50% of our content came from outside of the US. And in the past 3 years alone, we got 78 new international partners. So we're really working hard on that effort. This is just a sort of a brag sheet of some of the big names that disseminate their theses and dissertations through our database, which means, of course, that the University of Arizona students and authors sit side by side with the authors from these other institutions. I mentioned that we have a full-time editorial staff, and this is a little bit of what they do. And this really, I think, Karen and Anna, this is really sort of directed at both of you in some ways to say, here's part of the value of what we offer. Because as you know, as librarians, that indexing is really important. And without it, we wouldn't be able to offer robust search functionality. So I think...
Sorry, I just wanted to jump into and just sing some praises for ProQuest, because one thing that I love about ProQuest is the accessibility as well. For librarians, when we get requests from faculty to use articles in their courses, one challenge that we always have is making sure they're accessible for all students. And the ProQuest platform in general, across all your products, I always feel very confident ensuring the accessibility of something in ProQuest. The HTML is great, text to speech is amazing. And if we do happen to come across something that's not accessible, you all have always been very responsive when we ask for remediation. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that.
Thank you. That's a big compliment, and we appreciate it. So this is one other thing. I think I'm just going to do, let's see, this slide. I think I'm going to end on this slide, but really just to sort of, I guess, double down on what Karen said. We're focused on dissemination, quality, and consistency, and enhancing sort of the research and discovery process for our end users. And so that's really where we're going. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing this document. And all right, so can you see that? Is that visible to everybody?
Yes, looks great.
Okay. So when Karen showed us your link to ProQuest. I think, Karen, you actually started with this screen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. We have it configured just to start at the advanced search.
Okay.
page.
Okay. So, and really that's the most useful place to start anyway. So, that's super. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the basic search features here. And I would really like to make this part of the presentation a little more interactive. So the 3 or 4 of you who haven't spoken yet, please feel free. This right hand box here really doesn't give all of the search parameters, but it gives you a good starting place for how you can search. And of course, most people who go in to look for dissertations are going to go in and look for one of 2 things. They're either going to look for a specific author, or they're going to look for a topic that they want to research. So does anyone have either a specific author or a topic that they'd like to find out more about?
Sports psychology.
Oh, that's a big one. Sports psychology. Yes.
Sports psychology. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
And the other thing I just want to mention, Julia, another thing that students oftentimes at UAGC have to do is to find dissertations or ADPs specifically written by former students from our university. And that would include Ashford and Rockies as well. So if you could show us how to limit by institution, that'd be really helpful as well.
I'd be happy to do that. I'll do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, so first, let's just look under sports psychology and see what we can find. All right, and so you'll notice here on the drop down that there are a couple of different possibilities. You can click for all subjects and indexing or main subject. There is also a keyword search, which is right here. And so we offer those 3 different ways to look because those are 3 different ways in which we index the work. So let's just go ahead and click on that and see what we get. All right, so we have almost 2,900 results on sports psychology. And what I'm going to do is show you a little bit about this left-hand panel, how that works. I'm usually interested in the most recent work. Now, recent is not necessarily better, as we all know, but it's one way to sort things. You can, of course, sort by oldest first or by relevance. I'm also going to limit this to full text because if I'm really interested in this topic, I'm probably going to want to read a little bit about it and not just see the abstract. So if I limit it to full text, I can see that the number of results drop from 2,900 to about 2,650. And then I can also look, this is kind of a handy little sort of mnemonic here. I can sort of see when most of these titles appear in the collection. So these are decades, but basically, if I were to hazard a guess, I really don't know anything about sports psychology, but if I were to hazard a guess, I would say maybe it wasn't a big field prior to 1990. Maybe that was the decade in which it really emerged as a sort of bona fide, recognized field. And we can see that it then the numbers of titles in that area started increasing in the subsequent decades there. If you'd like, you can enter a specific range here. In other words, if I'm really interested in 1997, I could click on this link and enter that there. I can go through and look at different subjects that are related to sports management here, and these are the numbers of titles that accompany or that are the buckets that each of these subject titles hold. Here are different indexing terms related to. And then we have a couple of other options here. University, which was mentioned earlier, location of university, and language. And I'll show you each of those 3 in a minute. But first of all, what we're going to do is we've limited our search to full text, and then I'm going to click on something called citations connections. And what you also see here that you have the option to click on dissertation only. You know, if you're feeling short on time and you really just want to get the sort of deep dives, then you might want to go with dissertations only. But citation connections is something that we can click to explore that AI interface that I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to click enter and see what happens. Okay, so we've whittled this search down from 2650 to about 600 search results. And what I was mentioning about citations connections is that because we have over 3 million full text dissertations and theses in our collection, you know, it's beyond our capability to do all of that at one whack. And so we've started in tranches. Excuse me, and the first tranche was back to 2008. So that tranche is done, and what that means is that that until we get a little further along, you can only go back as far as 2008 and to utilize this function. Does that make sense? Okay, and we will do more. I don't think that we're ever going to get the entire collection done because what it involves, and you'll see why in a minute, what it involves is enormous computing power. We essentially extract all of the references from each dissertation, and then we couple them across dissertations and as well as across all of the other materials in our aggregate collections. So it's an enormous amount of lifting, and we probably will never get back to the 17th century, just to be quite clear about that. But you know, those dissertations are still in our collection. All right, so here we are. Does anyone have a preference as to which of these dissertations we go in and take a closer look at?
I don't. Does anybody else?
Yips in baseball, number 4.
Yips in baseball it is.
I love that term, the yips.
I don't know what that means. What does that
I
mean?
think it's like when you psych yourself out or something, like you've got a case of the
Oh.
yips. It's adorable.
What a great term.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So, you know, I love it when I learn something new. This is terrific. So this is evidently a dissertation that was written by Mark Lewis Branna at Grand Canyon University in 2021. And we can see here on the left that we're looking at a full text version. There is a preview version if you like. I think it's 24 pages of preview. So that's available if, you know, you're not in the mood to sort of read the whole thing. I'm going to go back to the full text here. And then we have the abstract and details. This is where, you know, you can view what we call the metadata for this dissertation. And this is the abstract here. And then you can see what subjects it's listed under. Sports and psychology are highlighted because, of course, that's what we typed into the search box. It's classified under clinical psychology and sports management. You've got keywords, number of pages, ISBN, committee members, which is pretty remarkable to be able to look up dissertations by committee members. Of course, the university it came from, and all of this other stuff that you would expect to be associated with that. So what's really special about this is that now that we have this AI function, on the right-hand side, you can see that there's a column that's populated.
Can I say I am so excited to see that foundational research is incredible. That is actually one of the things that students often approach us about, like, what is some foundational research on this topic and how do I find it? And the fact that now you are offering this as just like handed over, that is amazing. That's very exciting.
Thank you so much. I find it equally exciting. I really do. And I just wish I had been a doctoral student with this kind of helping hand. Because as you know, in order to get these things, basically in the old days, what we had to do was comb through all the reference lists and see if there were titles of interest, and then find those titles and then comb through their reference lists. And so what you're seeing here on the right-hand column, which took a couple of seconds to pull up, would literally have taken days or weeks to accomplish by hand. So let me tell you a little bit more about what you're actually seeing here and how we created this. Foundational research, what we mean by foundational research is that we've taken a neighborhood, a quote unquote neighborhood of 1,000 documents from across the web. And these are not just documents that are within the ProQuest holdings, but they're literally from across the web. And we've looked at we've extracted their citations, and we've compared those citations to the citations to the reference list for the psychological experiences of the yips in baseball. And we've looked to determine whether or not there are 5 common references between this dissertation and this document over here. Once we've determined that, we look at all of those 1,000 documents in that neighborhood, and we figure out which ones are cited the most frequently amongst each other. And that's how this list on the right is ordered. So this one, the Belmont report, is cited more often amongst those 1,000 documents than any other document in this list on the right. So what that indicates, at least for one reasonably objective measure, is that this is a very influential, AKA foundational, piece of work that informs a lot of the sports psychology that has been written about. So if you look at this, you can see the number of citations it has. You know that it's the most frequently cited because it's the top of the list. And then if you want to go there, you just click on the hyperlink. And boom, it's right there. Any questions about that?
I'm just geeking out on it. I think that's
I know.
awesome.
I was gonna say, I just
I'm
love
like
it, and I can't wait to dig into
I'm like
it.
messaging Karen on the side. I'm like, what?
Okay, and then we can scroll down here, right? We can scroll, maybe maybe I would imagine that Mark Lewis is like, yeah, Belmont report, read that 15 times, right? He probably knows that really well. And probably other scholars in the field do, but maybe it goes down to, qualitative versus quantitative research. And I don't think I know that piece of work. What's that? And if that's the case, unfortunately, the fact that this is in black and not hot linked in blue means that we don't hold that within ProQuest. So you would have to go out and find the full text version of that through your library.
Gotcha.
But you know what it is. And you've got the citation right there. You can pull it. And you know that it's the 3rd most frequently cited work in that neighborhood of 1,000. And so on and so forth. So you can just sort of scroll down here forever looking at these documents and seeing whether or not they're useful to you. And you can keep going, right? It just keeps going.
We do doctoral research consultations, and I guarantee you that we'll be pointing this feature out to students a lot. That's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so great to hear. Who is talking, by the way? Because I can't see your face.
Yes, I should put myself on screen. It's Kira. I just
hi,
don't know how to be
Kira.
quiet.
Okay,
Hi.
okay, great.
I'm one of the librarians.
Kira. I just wanted to know who you were because
Yeah, we have a lot of students that are looking for like systematic literature reviews that we help them with. And the main place we direct them to is trying to find these like foundational research to really branch out their topic and just build that literature review from. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, it's a kind of a way of sort of looking at the production of knowledge, right? Is
right.
How we think about
That's
it.
tracing that scholarly conversation and
Yes.
understanding their role in furthering it.
Yes, exactly. And the beauty of it is, I'll tell you a little bit about the history of this technique if you're interested.
Sure.
It didn't come from ProQuest. It came from the founder, the guy who founded the Web of Science was a guy named Eugene Garfield. And he was working hard on finding more efficient ways to help researchers in the 1950s. So this goes back away. And he found that there had been a legal professor and teacher in the 19th century who basically used this technique of finding citations and matching them between documents. And that's how he organized the legal literature for his students. So Eugene Garfield took the same idea of finding what he called bibliographic coupling, right? So finding parts of a bibliography and then coupling them together to organize the Web of Science materials. And we've basically taken that same technique and applied it to our collection here. But what's amazing about it is that it crosses fields and disciplines. You know, it's not discipline specific. It really is topical. It's driven by it's curated, if you will, by the authors of those documents themselves, because they've chosen which authors and which papers to look at. Language is basically irrelevant. It's just based on the materials that author has cited again. Country is irrelevant. So in a lot of ways, it's a really powerful search technique, which is objective in nature, but based on the subjective knowledges of the authors who used it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a really powerful technique. And I want to show you the other piece of this, which is that down at the bottom, we have another pane. And this pane, instead of going up and down, goes from left to right. And what these are dissertations that also have 5 citations in common with this, what we call the seed dissertation here, the yips in baseball. So each of these at the bottom has 5 references in common with the yips in baseball. And you can see, a minimum of 5, I should say a minimum of 5. And the similarity index here refers to the number of citations in common divided by the number of citations in the paper itself. So basically, the document here at the left has a higher similarity index, a higher percentage of references in common with the yips in baseball than any of the subsequent dissertations that are listed here. Did I explain that clearly?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And so, of course, just like in the previous pane, you can hot link to any of these. The beauty of the dissertations is these are all in our collection, so you will be able to hot link to all of them if we have the full text, right? There are some cases where we don't have the full text, but basically, no, let me take that back. You will be able to hot link to all of them because unless we have the full text, we wouldn't have the references extracted. So you will be able to hot link to all of these dissertations across the bottom. And so this gives you the sort of deep dive, into those works, which may or may not have been published, but it certainly doesn't mean that they're any less wonky than the works that are better known along the right-hand side column. So I'll stop there. I think that's a pretty good overview of citations, connections, and answer any questions that you might have there.
That's so exciting because, a lot of times students are just looking for multiple dissertations on a topic and just trying to get a lay of the land. So I love the functionality, those scrolling boxes. I'm really excited to share this with students.
That's awesome to hear. I hope that that they generate a lot of interesting work for you from it. And I also want to point out these little I buttons here. what I've described to you verbally is also sort of written down here. So you can sort of say, what was the definition of that? How did they derive this? So you can see it here. And there's a similar button down here for dissertations. And you can see sort of how we derived these, how we, what kind of code we use to teach, what kind of machine learning was used to teach this algorithm to go out and find these things.
That's great.
Up on the top right too, I would be remiss if I didn't point out these buttons here. So there are a series of buttons that you can use for any dissertation, whether it has citation connections or not. You can download the PDF. You can cite the paper, and I'm going to click on this because this is again something that I wish I had when I was a doctoral student.
Yeah. And
oh my gosh,
they're big RefWorks users too. So I know
great.
Just the seamless saving things to RefWorks as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all know what torture it is to change different to different citation.
Ours we have set up to default to the one. Most students use APA 7 at UAGC, so we have it set up just to be the default one.
Oh, okay, great. And so of course, you can copy that citation, but if somebody needs it for some sort of different citation system, they can click it there and copy it. We also have a print option, and then this button right here just sort of gives you a different interface for all of these different things you can look for. Let me speed back to the advanced search for a second, because I did want to address the question about how to look for a particular dissertations from a particular institution. So let me just scroll down here. I'm sorry, because of the time today, I'm not going to be able to show you everything.
Oh, that's okay.
I want to point out that we have 96 different languages.
Wow.
So if you're interested in searching for a dissertation in a particular language, let's say Ukrainian, you can do it here. You can also sort by master's theses or doctoral dissertations. But this is the spot where you go to look for a particular university or institution. You can see it here on the left. There's a box here and here. I like to click on this hot link. And then where do we want to go? Who do we want to look for? Please give me a name.
Our students tend to look for, I'd say, the three major institutions they're interested in are Ashford University.
Did I spell that right?
Sorry, Ashford, F as in Frank, O-R-D.
Okay. I don't know if we have that. Let's see. Looks
there
like we don't have very many there.
For historically, the doctoral program was University of the Rockies. So that might be another place to look. University of the Rockies. It's started in Colorado. So we have more there.
Okay.
And then of course, also University of Arizona Global Campus.
Okay.
Be the other one. But this is neat, the lookup feature. They don't have to.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
So you have to do a couple clicks, then you find, so we'll click there, add to search. So then we've got those three that you requested. We're going to hit search and we'll see. So not a lot of results there, but we do have 33.
And it's great that you can combine the three of them. I actually had not ever been able to I haven't known that you could do that, where you can actually go in and search each one together like that. I've done them separately. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. And so you got the idea how to do that, right? Just from watching me do it?
Yes.
Okay.
And I believe this is a newer program that we're developing. Is that right, Anna? So it makes sense that there's not a lot in.
Well, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, so University of Arizona, are you associated with the University of Arizona campus?
We are, July 1st officially will be part of University of Arizona.
Okay. And so I think that if I recall, there were 23,000 results.
Yeah,
or
there's
something
a
there.
lot more.
So if we were to add that, of course, we'd have a much bigger.
Absolutely.
But I just added the one that you mentioned, the global campus specifically. So again, here, we have this sort of same thing that we saw earlier. Here are some of the shortcuts to citations, to emailing the text to somebody, to saving the search that you did, which is always a nice function. You can also click here to go to the metadata, the preview, the full text. And let's just see whether we have any citation connections. I don't know whether we will, but let's see whether we have any citation connections out of this small group. Well, okay, great. So we actually have 19 of those which do have citation connections. And so those would all be exactly like what you saw earlier with the foundational research on the right. And then the similar dissertations along the bottom.
That's so great. Thank you.
Well, you're so welcome. I'm delighted to be able to help out today and to offer this short demonstration. And I am here if any of you would like to learn more about what we do.
Well, I will say that thank you so much for this. I mean, I can't tell you how wonderful this has been